Hi, we're talking to clinical psychologist Lihi Gilhart today. Hi, Lihi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Lihi, with eating disorders, is it really about the food, or is there a deeper meaning to the use of the food?
I really believe that there's a deeper meaning to the food, and the food is just used as a means to express internal turmoil that the girls aren't able to verbally express, and they almost use the food. So what I search to understand in therapy is what is the symbolic meaning of food? What are you really trying to convey through either purposefully depriving yourself of food, or what is it in the repetitive compulsion and overeating and the bulimic expulsion of food? What is that about? So it's really trying to get to the deeper unconscious meaning of what is the relationship with food really about.
And tell me a little bit about the relationship and how this plays a part.
Okay. Essentially, when I say that what is the symbolic meaning, it's to understand that the food is representing something on an unconscious level. And what it really represents is a relationship. It's a struggle to take in or to keep a relationship going. That's basically what the food, there's a lot of things that the food is almost really expressing as well, because it's a lot of emotional, verbal expression that these girls really struggle to verbally express. So they use it, they express their anger, their rage, their pain through the food. And when we trace it back, what's fascinating is that it essentially goes back that's why I don't believe that an eating disorder is caused because of the media. Because you see anorexic models and therefore the girls now want to become like that. It's something that's a lot deeper, and it stems from childhood, and a lot of the times it's the relationship between the mother and daughter. One can bring it back to that. Something that I discovered in the research that I did was that all these girls, their mothers have their own issue with food, their own preoccupation with food. And so a lot of these girls, their first message that they even got from food was very confusing, because the mothers were constantly unhappy with their own bodies and constantly in conflict with their own bodies. And so they were teaching their daughters, giving them mixed messages about food. Do I eat? Do I not eat? The quantity that I am allowed to eat. So these girls, their interaction with their mother, and one also needs to think about that the child's first experience with the world is through feeding. The way that the mother is there to feed the child. And the way that the child gets that, that's the connection to the world that the child first experiences, the baby. And so it's built on that, and then it progresses through time. And so one needs to understand or think about that these mothers that really struggle, what is their own relationship, and how then are they available to their daughters because of their own issues inside food. That's the one aspect of it. The other aspect with what's known about anorexic girls and bulimic or eating disorder girls is that the relationships with their mothers are very rickety. And what I mean by that is that either the mothers are very, very enmeshed in their daughters' lives and almost see their daughter, there's a lot of narcissism where they see their daughter as an extension of themselves. And so there isn't the space for the daughter to create her own identity. And so it's always it's very, very enmeshed. You also get mums that are narcissistic, and there's also mothers that are also emotionally unavailable. They're almost unable to contain their daughter's anxieties, their daughter's emotions. This is why these girls have a lot of emotional problems in the sense of expressing themselves, because they haven't been given that space and that freedom to express. So when an eating disorder develops, for example, it's known that anorexia, they say that it's almost like she's trying to separate her body from her mother's body. This fantasy of I will die, I will become minute and shrink It's that almost on the one level, it's to create a separate identity that maybe she can differentiate and separate from her mother. But again, these are very unconscious things. It's not something that's consciously she's aware of doing. Also, if you've got a mother that's very enmeshed and very intrusive, these girls experience that their mothers are almost kind of intruding into their space, into their bodies. And so when they deny the food, then it's like, I'm not taking in anything that you need to give me. This is my barrier. I cannot, my body, maybe emotionally, maybe in all other spheres I cannot, but my body is the one area where you will not invade into my space. Now, fathers also play a role, and usually fathers, they've been emotionally unavailable in these girls' lives. There haven't been these strong figures, and there was also indication of, and again, this isn't all of them, but there is indication of sexual abuse, so that also plays a factor, because one also needs to know that these girls are struggling, the fact of to keep the body almost womanless, where there are no breasts, where there is no period. It's almost like she wants to remain young and small. And she doesn't want to grow up. And then one needs to understand, why does she not want to grow up? Why does she not want to own her own body as a woman? And that goes back to the mothers. It can go back to the fathers as well.
Just one last final question. Going back to the relationship between a mother and a child. If I'm a mother who's always been worried about my weight and what I eat, and I'm telling my child, don't eat that sweet, don't eat that, I don't want you to put on weight, is that a bad message to be sending your child? Should we be careful of the messages that we give our young children?
We definitely need to, because I think that if a mother is unhappy with her body, then she will always project onto her daughter messages that she may not consciously be aware of them, but she's projecting messages onto her body. You may have an overweight mother that then constantly watches what her daughter eats and doesn't want her daughter to eat. And this is this extension that she almost like uses her daughter, and so she deprives her daughter because she almost controls her daughter because she's unable to control herself. So one definitely needs to be careful about the messages. If you always equate food with love, it confuses things. I have a patient, I have an 18-year-old girl that I'm treating now, and she's really struggling. She was an overweight child, then she had a period of anorexia, now she's in an in-between period. Her mother has her own issue with food, where she's kind of lost her weight now, and I had a joint session with them where I tried to kind of bridge between them. And the mother was saying, I have no ability to emotionally contain you. I cannot listen to you. I cannot tell you the things that you need me to hear. So she's not there. And so this child's internalized that, and this is what she constantly says in sessions, I will only be loved by my mother if I'm thin. She doesn't love me any other way.
Thank you, Lihi. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you.